Hey everyone, this is Chris and welcome to Unwanted Tutorials. Unwanted Tutorials is a loose collection of how-to, hands-on, decidedly irreverent videos in which I aim to enable you to create engaging content using DCS's hellish creation tools. After looking at the bare necessities of placing a player aircraft, let's look at some more of the details. We'll go over essentially the same ground and deep dive into the options to become more familiar with them. We're going to cover so much space, in fact, that I have to divide this tutorial into multiple parts. And to those of you who showed up to see me blow my stack and rip ED a new one for being clownishly inept, yeah, you got my number. Still, I love DCS. I'm rapidly approaching the 10,000 hours playtime mark. My love for DCS has not made me blind to its warts though. I won't put lipstick on a pig. Eagle Dynamics create one of the world's best cockpit sims around. And they suck badly at game design and quality assurance. You probably already know this, and any time that you spend in Mission Editor will drive this point home. So, I've taken my beta blockers, and while I'm waiting for them to kick in, please allow me to pontificate on why I think that Mission Editor sucks big hairy ones. I believe that Mission Editor was written as a tool to satisfy the parameters and data requirements of the cockpit simulator. It was never designed as a tool to create, craft, nor narrate a story. Its parameter-driven approach forces its users to enter data, and at every point, the user must know what data is required. In the past decades of Mission Editor's existence, nobody has ever looked at it from a player's or content creator's perspective. Mission Editor has no tools to help shaping content. There is nothing to simplify nor enhance creating a narrative. It's there primarily to give people a method to enter data to make a cockpit work. It was created by sim technicians to feed their simulator. It's as if a typesetter was tasked to design a word processor. The result may provide methods to tightly control kerning and superior spacing of characters in a text, manage italics and diacritics, and it would excel in flowing text through a multi-column layout. Unfortunately, it would provide no tools to help writing nor refine the text, because typesetters aren't authors. We'd be trying to write War and Peace in a layouting application. Mission Editor was never designed to compose missions. It merely exists to fill in data, and it is only good at that task. Because Mission Editor's designers are sim specialists who know nothing of game design nor storytelling. To make matters worse, it seems to me that Eagle Dynamics, innocent of game design knowledge, also managed to assemble the world's most inept UX design team to put together an application backed up by a clown show tasked with quality assurance. And we see the results all throughout DCS, especially in Mission Editor. Eagle Dynamics don't know what makes a good game, so don't expect their tools to help you in this regard. That is why most missions feel so lifeless, so unengaging, because mission creators are being handed a chainsaw to perform surgery. Mission Editor simply isn't. It's a DCS cockpit prep application. And with this happy prep talk behind us and my meds kicking in, let's revisit placing player planes, this time with the occasional deep dive so we can try and understand what or why Mission Editor behaves so strangely. So strap in, buckle up, here we go! This time we want to place a blue player Su-25T, the free fixed-wing bomber jet, on the Caucasus map. This time we will explore putting it on the ground at Senaki Kolki and strap on some weapons. To start the process, we need to click on either the jet or the helicopter on the left side. The jet if we want to place a fixed wing, the helicopter to place a rotor wing. I'm clicking on the jet since I want to place a fixed wing. Once we have clicked on the jet, the right side of the screen opens a control bar that allows us to enter information for the as of yet unplaced group. Yes, group. In DCS, all units are part of groups. Aircraft are always in groups with a maximum of 4 units, and units in aircraft groups must always be of the same type. So we are about to place an aircraft group, and to do so, we'll go through the controls on the right side top to bottom. The first control we encounter is name. Thankfully, this is defaulted by Mission Editor to Arial-1, which is acceptable to me, so we accept and skip that. The next control is called condition, and it does not look as if it's defaulted. It is though, so we'll skip it as well. As an aside, no, condition does not control the condition that the aircraft are in. Aircraft in DCS are always spawned in pristine condition. Technically advanced users can enter a Lua script here to control the probability of the group spawning. Few people ever use it. In fact, I have yet to encounter a mission that does. This is straight up trash level UX. You would do well to always ignore this control. The next control is country. This pop-up menu controls which country the group that you are about to place belongs to. And with this, we come to one of the biggest screw-ups in Mission Editor. To understand why, we have to look slightly ahead. When a group spawns into DCS, its game engine needs to know which country that group belongs to. Why? 2 reasons. First, every country is part of one of the 3 factions, red, blue or neutral. So by choosing a country, you also tell the game which faction the group belongs to. Crude, but okay. And now comes the screw-up. For some reason, the designers of Mission Editor thought it was a good idea to tie the availability of a type to the real-world services history of that type in a country. For example, the F-16A is available to the USA, but historically it was never in service in Russia. So Mission Editor disallows the F-16A if you set the country to Russia, and removes it from the menu. So someone at ED thought that it was a good idea to make more than 130 aircraft types available based on their service history in more than 60 countries. That's some cool 7,800 combinations that you are expected to keep in your head. Oh, and when you select a country, instead of disabling a non-available type, Mission Editor removes all types that aren't available to this country, leaving you none the wiser if it exists or not. So yeah, not 1 but 2 critical amateur interface blunders in one of the most essential functions in Mission Editor, adding a frigging aircraft to a flight sim scenario. There's a reason why I think that Mission Editor's UX designers are clownishly inept at their job, and here's proof that stares you right in the face. I recommend that you always choose Combined Joint Task Force or United Nations Peacekeepers as country. Those 3 countries have access to all aircraft, so Mission Editor will never deny access to a type for stupid reasons. After all, you are the mission designer, and you decide which aircraft are available to the player. Unfortunately, and still looking forward, this is not the only restraint that limits access to an aircraft type. There are at least 2 additional major UX blunders that the designers committed that I need to prepare you for. 3 or more attributes control if a particular type is available to you in Mission Editor. I will now deploy visual aids to explain this UX atrocity. Please don't expect miracles. I can't undo what the clowns at ED have put together. The availability of a type can depend on country. This also defines the faction of the unit, and availability of the type seems to be tied to real-world service history of that type in that country. If you aren't a history or military aviation buff, crack a book or use Combined Joint to disengage this stupidity. Oh, and to enable access to neutral countries, click on the Combat button until it reads All. Task. Here you must choose what kind of mission profile or task you intend for the aircraft. Mission creators are expected to know what this means, and if an aircraft type wasn't built to support the chosen task, access to the aircraft type will be removed. If you don't know what these tasks mean or which aircraft are suited for which tasks, crack a book or turn it off by choosing Task Nothing. Be advised that later on, the chosen task also controls the availability of weapons for this aircraft. We'll revisit this atrocity when we get to it. Historical filter. When this is active, types are restricted by the year that they entered service relative to the year that the mission takes place. The mission state is set in the weather panel. If an aircraft entered service after the mission state, access to this aircraft type is removed. You turn historical filtering off by making sure that the chronograph icon at the bottom of the window is turned off. So there is a completely unnecessary, highly complex rule set at work that controls access to an aircraft type. In order to be able to access any type that you want, you should always make sure that the chronograph or watch icon at the bottom of the screen is turned off. Ensure that the button next to the country reads All. As country, use Combined Joint or UN Peacekeepers, and always set the task to nothing at the first possible moment. So that wasn't too hard now, was it? Sure, Sifrag, you might say. Don't be such a wuss. Forewarned is being forearmed, right? Right? Let's proceed. The chrono icon on the bottom is off. I've chosen Combined Joint Blue as country. Now I want to set its task to nothing to avoid the task filter. Task is currently set to CAS, Close Air Support. Let's click it and choose nothing. No dice. Fortunately, for reasons unknown and documented nowhere, even though CAS is selected, the task filter is currently disengaged and all aircraft types are being displayed. Just be aware that later, should you want to edit this group, the task filter will become active and restrict access to types. But why is CAS active and the filter disengaged? Well, you know the saying, one bug is a tragedy, a million bugs is DCS. So we leave the task at CAS, which incidentally would be fitting for the Su-25T. Lucky break, I guess. And now we come to type. When we click into the drop-down menu to disclose all available types, it expands to a long list. Cool. From the looks of it, this list is sorted alphabetically, right? Right? Eagle Dynamics, can't you guys even spell? And what's wrong with your quality assurance? Man, time for some more maths. We want to place an Su-25T Frogfoot. Since we know the type, we can use the search field that pops up when we click on type to filter all types and narrow the search. Cool. Unfortunately, that search function will not help unless you know at least part of the type designation for the aircraft. And here's the problem. You can't look for a Hawk, Frogfoot, Black Hawk, Falcon or Viper. You must know that a Phantom is an F-4. To look for the Hornet, you should look for the 18, provided, of course, that you know that it's an F/A-18. A Hornet won't appear if you search for F-18 nor F-18. So, know your type, soldier, and stop yapping, and stop crying, content creator. You chose to go to Mission Editor not because it is easy. Apologies to JFK. But yeah, a clown show. What really bugs me here is that the search function is a great idea. So close. The guys designing the UX simply can't see past their own technical background and have zero empathy for players, content creators, nor mission designers or their needs. It would have been so easy, and it still is, to make the type names more helpful. Just add the colloquial name. For example, instead of f/a-18c lot 20, the designers can add Hornet to the name, and even stupid content designers like I can find it. Same for the Eagle, Frogfoot, Tiger, Flanker, Huey, Blackhawk, Flogger, Tomcat, you name it. Just a little thing, and it makes mission editors so much more accessible. The fact that this has seemingly never occurred to anyone in the teams at Eagle Dynamics makes me want to cry. If I hadn't taken my meds, that is. So let's move on. Now let's choose a skill for our aircraft. What? Why? After all, we want the aircraft to be controlled by players, right? And we don't know how good they are. Well, yes, but this is DCS, and in DCS, a skill of client tells the game that the aircraft is controlled by a player. No real reason, it just is. Yeah, there are a billion other ways to do that in UX, all of them better. But this is ED level UX. So we choose client as skill. Note that later, when editing this plane, there are two different skills that tell DCS that this is a player-controlled aircraft. Here we chose client. Later on, Mission Editor can also offer you a player skill. Simply ignore it. That would be your best choice. Let's be kind and assume that it's only the low-rent QA team who overlooked that the UX team forgot to remove that legacy player skill level. Yeah. ED level QA. One bug is a tragedy and all that. For simplicity, we'll skip the remaining controls below skill, as we have gathered all information that we need to place a player aircraft. Since I want to place it at Senaki Kolki, I now pan and zoom the map so that Senaki's airfield is centered in my screen. Note that I have zoomed in so far that I can see the blue parking numbers on Senaki's tarmac. To put the aircraft into the game, click on the middle of the 05 parking position at Senaki Kolki. See the aircraft symbol appear on the map. The aircraft is now placed in-game. The aircraft will spawn at the point that we just clicked. We have set this aircraft's spawn location. Note that as soon as the player's icon appears, the lower part of the right control bar activates, giving us access to additional controls for our group's placement. You do remember that we are placing a group, right? If you look below the parade of strangely colored vertical bars, you see more named controls. Look for the type drop-down. Yeah, it's another fundamental UX violation. Two active controls of the same name, type, inside the same UI context. At this point, there's very little denying that the people responsible for Mission Editor's UX don't know what they are doing, and that nobody at ED gives a crap that Mission Editor's UI is pure trash. So let's just facepalm and move on. So that other type dropdown now is set to turning point. Let's briefly stop here and talk about spawn points. Aircraft can spawn with different states, and this is controlled by this pop-up. Let's briefly go through how a player plane can spawn and use that knowledge for our plane once we got the hang of it. There are two principal states for aircraft to spawn. In the air, where they spawn at altitude and speed. The default altitude and speed usually should keep the airplane safe. An aircraft spawns in the air if the type of the waypoint is turning point or flyover point. For us, more interesting are the other options that begin with takeoff. They have odd names, yes, but that's merely ED flavor, so let's look at them individually. Takeoff from runway places the aircraft at the beginning of the active runway with the aircraft started up. Started up is also called hot. Takeoff from ramp places the aircraft on a parking slot. Although you seemingly can control parking slot, hangar or bunker, in Mission Editor never trust that DCS will respect your choice. It may place the aircraft on that spot or any other free spot when the player enters the game because reasons. Most importantly, the aircraft is cold and the player is required to run through the starter procedure once they enter the aircraft. Takeoff from parking hot would better be called takeoff from ramp hot, since it is the hot equivalent of takeoff from ramp, except that the aircraft is hot or started up when the player enters it. Be advised that hot does not necessarily mean that the aircraft state equals the one that a correct starter procedure would put it into. It's merely a hot state. The differences often are subtle and depend on the aircraft. Takeoff from ground allows you to place the aircraft almost anywhere on land, but it is usually intended to allow you to place a player aircraft somewhere at an airfield that is not a numbered parking slot. The plane is cold when the player enters. Never put a plane with from ground into a hangar in Caucasus because the hangar's doors won't open. Yeah, a million bugs and so forth. Note that from ground isn't available for AI fixed wings, but it is available for AI rotor wings. Takeoff from ground hot is like takeoff from ground, except that the aircraft is started up. And yeah, I really don't know why the UX people omit cold from startup choices so we can better differentiate hot from cold. It would have been so much better if the designers used takeoff from ground cold instead of just calling it takeoff from ground. Yeah, another UX blunder. Note that both from ground options allow you to set the aircraft's heading, something that is not possible for from ramp, from runway, nor from parking. Let's choose from ground hot for our frog foot and move it to the hold short line on Zenaki 09, then turn it so that it faces the runway. To do so, click on the Edit button to enter waypoint edit mode, then click and drag the frog foot symbol until it's close to the runway. Then click and drag into the heading round thing until the arrow points towards the runway and the headings box's value reads 220-ish. We now have placed a blue player frog foot on the ground, hot, close to the hold short of 09 in Zenaki Kolki, facing the runway. And you know what? It looks like I'm about to exceed the YLD 50 on my beta blockers, so let's take a break before I break. I hope that you found this tutorial helpful and enjoyed listening to me grousing about ED's apparent ineptitude. Make no mistake, their cockpits are top-notch, and I love DCS. I just wish their applications were less crappily designed and built to higher quality standards. Now I'm heading outside to touch some grass and start the grill. We'll pick up where I left off soon. Till next time, and take care!